The desk is my own. The keyboard is my own. The camera is my own.
Matt, are you okay?
Oh, thank you, spirits. I will watch bad movies in the past, the present, and the future.
Dyl? What have I gotten myself into here?
Don't worry. He gets weird sometimes, especially at the beginning of these episodes.
You there. Boy. What day is it, my fine fellow?
It's Christmas Eve, December 23rd. Why?
I haven't missed it. The spirits did it all in one night. They can do whatever they want. Of course they can.
Of course.
Of course? Of course what?
You, milady. Go to the grocer and get the biggest turkey they have. And the worst movie you can find.
And, what exactly am I supposed to do with it?
Why, we're going to take it to Dill's house. And we're going to patiently wait for 4 hours while he cooks the turkey for us. And we're going to watch the bad movie. It'll be a surprise.
Surprise, I'm right here.
You want me to take them to New Jersey? And aren't you in Oklahoma? Like, this is going to be a hard no for me.
Stacy, don't you see? I was visited by 3 ghosts in the night. And they showed me the true meaning.
The true meaning of what?
Christmas?
What? No! The true meaning of FRAMEWRECK.
What a story, Mark.
Ho ho hello and welcome to a new episode of FRAMEWRECK with Matt, Dylan, and for the second consecutive month, we are joined once again by Stacy. You saw her in the cold open, but I wanted to give her a grand reveal. You know, it's the end of the year. I wanted to make it big and broad. How's it going, y'all? Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
This is actually our 3rd consecutive thing with Stacy, because if you go over to Maddie Loves Movies, my YouTube channel, you can watch our holiday special Camp Film Camp episode. Stacy's on that as well.
Yeah, she's taking over. She's joining the FRAMEWRECK, the purple wave, if you will. And I love it. I love it. Stacy, always such a great guest. This is her 3rd episode on this show proper as well, because she was on our episode with the Raven way back when. And it seems to be a theme with Stacy that every time she's on, she is introducing both of us to a movie we have never seen before, an episode or a movie I had never heard of before. So this is always fun because Stacy always comes with the recommendations for us. It's always, fun when I can recommend something to Matt or Matt can recommend something for me, but it's really fun when we're both going in blind because we have no idea what to expect. Though I think we had an inkling based on the title and premise of this one. But this is our Santa Jaws episode, our long anticipated Santa Jaws episode pitched to us a while ago by Stacy, coming to full fruition. She needed 2 holiday episodes, and you know what? They happen to be back to back. It was a coincidence, but it was a happy one at that. So yeah, Santa Jaws. Matt, how you feeling about Santa Jaws?
Well, here's I had never seen it, like you said. I had heard of it. I came across it on Prime one day. But as I was watching the trailer, I was like, oh, this movie knows what it is. It's not suitable for us. So, similar to like Velocipaster, how even though people keep telling me I should cover it, and we probably should cover it at some point, so people stop telling me to cover it.
Oh no, you've
like,
turned your I know your stance.
Yeah. Well, maybe one day we'll cover it. It's just Velocipaster knows exactly what it is. It's trying to be a bad movie, and I thought, well, that looks like this one is. And on some level it is, because it's definitely trying to pick up that surf the Sharknado wave. But it's also a bad movie in its own right. It is trying things that it's amazingly failing at, or at least doing poorly enough that I don't think it wanted to do poorly. So it definitely fits here. So I'm very pleased that we were able to do this one. Usually I come in with the behind the scenes stuff, but I don't have that yet.
Yeah.
So
A little barren out there for this one, you know, not certainly a
is.
high profile film in the way that Sharknado was, kind of more of a hidden gem, if you will, but that also makes it like fresh and new and exciting for us. Like we don't have a
Yeah.
lot of public opinion to go on. But Stacy, as someone who picked this, as someone who pitched this, as someone who brought this to our attention, how did you feel when we finally said, okay, we're doing Santa Jaws? Were you excited to rewatch it? What is your history with this film?
I came across it on Prime, much like how I discovered Nativity.
Mm.
One was a winner. But yeah, so me and actually Chad, one of the other hosts of the channel, a few years back, I found it and we decided to do a watch along of it. And I couldn't believe it existed. Like, I was like, this is like something me and my friends would have done in film school. Like, I just was baffled that it was made. Which made it glorious, which was just, you know, so fun. And then yeah, I might have rewatched it one time in between, but I was excited to go back because I didn't remember it super well. I just remembered thinking, oh my God, how does this exist? So I was excited to go back and watch it again for this. And I actually watched it 2 more times for this. And I have the same reactions every time. It hasn't lost its luster in that way.
Yeah, and we will overall like kind of answer that question of like the intentionality because of Matt's worry. Is it intentionally bad? Is it just bad? Is it bad at all? Like maybe we think it's good, you know. And I think that could be a really fun discussion. But yeah, like it definitely kind of lives in that Sharknado vein. But I think also because it's the season, and you know, you really want something that's gonna like just engulf you with the Christmas holiday flair. I definitely think this is a real treat in terms of just really nailing the Christmas iconography. And I know kind of off air we were all talking about like other superlatives we could bring to the table for this episode because there's just so many different Christmassy things and also Jaws related things in this as well. It really feels like it's trying to tick all the boxes and appeal to everyone in some way, even though it is very polarizing.
Okay, so I now have the information, the production information. It was written by Jake Kiernan and directed by Misty Talley. As far as the behind the scenes stuff, the production information, it was filmed in Florida, not Florida. Damn it, Louisiana. That's all I know. That's the only information I have on this movie. But yeah, other than that,
I was shocked it even had an IMDb, to be honest with you. Like, I was like, I didn't think it was a real enough movie to have an IMDb.
Yeah. So was this like a straight to video deal, or was this more of like a Prime exclusive, or was this a sci-fi? Because Sharknado was a big like sci-fi drop. Like they were definitely televising it and making a big deal of it. Matt, do you have any information of like where it premiered, or if it was like straight to video?
It was a sci-fi. It was released on Sci-Fi, but it did have a release at the Surfside Playhouse in Surfside, Florida.
There we go. That Oscar qualifying run, if you will. That's great. You know, as every film should. Sweet. So, Matt, as a first-time watcher, just what are your overall like first thoughts of Santa Jaws? Since we kind of know Stacy's, she remains unchanged. She loves it. You know, but what do you think of Santa Jaws as a first-time watcher?
So I really enjoyed this movie. Both times I watched it, as everyone knows, I watch them twice for this show. First time is usually to kind of to watch it, but also determine, you know, how it fits in with our show. And the second time is to enjoy it more and to pick out some stuff that I want to make sure I talk about. So the first time I spent a lot of time deciding if this was like how intentional this all was. There came points, and we'll talk about them, where it became pretty clear to me that this works for our show because there are things that that are clearly not great film, like that are kind of shortcomings for it. Even if they are intending for this to be kind of ridiculous, it does have its shortcomings that made me very, very happy and made me entertained. So the second time I watched it, I enjoyed it a lot more than even the first time, which I really did enjoy it. It definitely does hit the marks for us. And I'm excited to go a little bit more in depth in it in here in a second. But how did you feel on your first watch, Dyl?
I mean, yeah, I only watched this once. I actually watched this morning, and I thought it was fun. It was definitely. It's interesting because like I feel like a lot of the bad movies we cover just like have a really poor quality to the way they're made as well. and it's not just the dialogue, it's not just the effects, it's like everything. Whereas here, like the moments without the shark are like pretty competently filmed, like competently crafted, to where I was like, you know what, this actually resembles a real movie in a way that even like Sharknado doesn't at times. But then like once you see the shark and once you're like fully in the CG of it all, I think that's where it does cross over, where I'm like, yeah, no, this is like really rough. And I could just tell they were like on a limited budget, obviously, but it's like at times I was like, you know what, this actually kind of works. It's just like a fun kind of family film. And then, you know, it takes those pivots. And I think that's another thing too, is the tonal clashes of like, you know, you have this shark impaling people and eating people and chopping off people's legs, but then you also have like the dialogue that you would find in like a Disney Channel original movie, and it's like, okay, well, so what are we doing here? Like, what's the tone? And I think that's also what adds to the frame wreck of it all. It's like it really doesn't understand. Like this duality of tone is so jarring, but also like it is fun, it is entertaining. I think when it does kind of go big and tries to, you know, kind of forget that it's a real film and becomes a schlocky CGI mess, I think it's even more entertaining, and that's kind of what we want to go for on this show. But yeah, like I definitely think this fits in that Sharknado vein in that way, in the way that like, yes, there are times where I'm like, they definitely know they're leaning into something here, especially with a lot of the dialogue, all the little puns and quirky jokes and quips, which we'll get to, because I think some of that is it's intentional to be silly, but I think it's almost too silly to where it just becomes really bad. You know, and that's all the stuff we look for in these films. So yeah, I definitely think it works in that frame wreck lens, though I do think it's much better in quality than I expected. Like I expected real like The Room grain and like, you know, the way the clash of the audio and the visuals, like it really was competently shot. It's just the dialogue sucks, the acting sucks, and the effects of the shark are terrible, which then adds to it. So yeah, I thought this was a blast. Obviously, as I said earlier, like the festiveness of its Christmas atmosphere and its, you know, Christmas hullabaloo is just so fun. Like I love just all the different references. The fact that the Santa hat just fits so perfectly on the fin, like little things like that, that I'm like, this is Christmas through and through. That if you want something for this time of year that's a little different than the norm, like I think this satisfies. Because honestly, even the good Christmas movies aren't always great. They're just like very enjoyable because they put you in that sense of mind and atmosphere that I think this film does. But this film just doesn't have quite as much quality as those ones. But I do think, as we talked about on your show, Matt, like there's so much camp in every Christmas movie to an extent. There are very few Christmas movies where there is no camp. You know, like It's a Wonderful Life even has some camp, you know, so I think that's worth noting.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that struck me both times I was watching this is, or the question I had both times, and I don't think it was ever answered. Where does this take place? We know it takes place in Port City, but we aren't really given a location, like where Port City is, unless you guys
There's a
noted that.
boat license plate that says like Culver City, Louisiana, or I don't know. It says something Louisiana.
Yeah, that makes sense.
On
It
one of
was
the boats.
filmed there. Yeah, it was filmed in Louisiana, so maybe it takes place in Louisiana. I feel like they were
But it's
purposely.
Also, New
Not-
Orleans is known as the Port City, right? That might be like a slang term of it, right?
I don't know.
It
it's on,
sounded
like,
like
the
they were
bayou.
saying port. They were using Port City in a more comic booky way, like creating a
is our
place that doesn't
town.
really exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only reason I asked is because we got people wearing sweaters, but also people in bikinis,
Thank you.
and and it just, what is the climate right now? Like nobody at any point is like, gosh, it's so hot in the sweater, or is that girl like, gosh, I need to get clothes on because I'm freezing. So I'm very interested in what the climate is like in Port City. Maybe it's just always perfect, and no matter what you're wearing. That's the magic of Port City. Is no matter what you're wearing, it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I had kids like that I was friends with growing up that like would wear basketball shorts in the winter or like, you know, sweatshirts in the summer, just because like that was just what they were comfortable in, less so about heat and body temperature. But yeah, like it is very intriguing. Like I didn't even think of that, the different fashion trends of like, oh, it's a Christmas movie, yet they're in bikinis, but like it is set in the South, but they're also wearing sweaters, you know, like I think that's a really cool
Right.
observation.
Yeah.
this
Well,
is-
and sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, people not wearing what it's supposed to be for the season is a big pet peeve of mine in movies.
Okay.
Like, it's come up before, but probably not on any of these shows. And for her, I did just write it off as like, you know, those like young hot girls that are going to the club and it's 20 below, but they're still in mini skirts and shit because they have to look hot. Like, I just figured she's like that. Like,
Yeah, the
she's
Halloween thing.
freezing,
Yeah, of like
but
you're gonna dress slutty on Halloween even if you get
yeah.
hypothermia the next day. Yeah.
But I did
But she definitely got in the
register it.
water.
Huh?
She definitely got in the water though.
Yeah.
At Christmas time. So that's well, and that's something I think about all the time when I'm watching Christmas movies or any movie set in the winter. Is that if it comes out in the winter, it was probably filmed in the summer, and so I always think about how hot those people must be.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know that it's very interesting that no, like I could even with her, like, yeah, she's supposed to be like that's the kind of person she is, but I would also expect the gosh, I'm really cold. Can I get some clothes, please?
Mhm.
She's
And
also
then no one
whiny.
like if no one would give them to her because they didn't want her to like the comic book guy, if he wouldn't give them to her because he didn't want her to cover up, that would have been a good joke and it would have satisfied the the issue. But yeah, I'm a year-round shorts wearer, so I on one level, on one hand, I get it, but also like there were varying different, very different attires in this.
I think the sweaters and the bundling up is the more out of place fashion choice in this because it is set in like a more like warm climate. It seems like I honestly feel like it's more commonplace in those like southern like Gulf states and also like in California. Like they probably do get like hot Christmases at times, like or at least warm enough. So like I really think it might be the other way around where it's like the people wearing sweaters are the ones that are a little out of place. But I've never been in New Orleans during a Christmas, so I don't know if it gets warm this time of year like it does in the summer, or if it does get a little colder. Because I know, like my folks in Florida, like my grandparents, they experience warm weather year round. So it's like I just don't know. They've got occasional snow here and there, but it could also just be just a weird continuity problem, And we're thinking too
I
deep,
think
but that's probably it. But
I think they probably wanted to keep it vague where they were. I
Mhm.
think the reveal of the license plate was more a budget issue.
yeah, like
Rather
an
than
oops, that made it in the shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so
yeah,
too.
and there's nothing we can do about it, and we couldn't
Yeah.
make them move it because we didn't have the money for that.
Mm.
We probably weren't cleared to shoot here. But yeah, it's just very interesting. It kind of, I mean, the way they make it feel is more northeast because, and maybe that's just also the association with Jaws.
Yeah.
But the it definitely didn't feel Christmassy at all. In like as far as the look of that town. But yeah, that was one of the big things I picked up on early on. I would also unless you guys have more to talk about with the city, I would
No.
like to move on.
Yeah, I mean, there's one
to-
little thing I have that's kind of connected to what you were saying, and that's just that, and I'm sure we'll talk about it when we get into the ending and like the actual climaxes with the shark. But like, you think of Jaws, you think of like the three guys on the water in the boat, but this one mostly takes place on the dock. And like, I get it's Port City, but it's very funny how like most of the action is just like let the shark come to us on this little dock and let's like throw things at it. Like it's very minimal in terms of its actual action set pieces. And that's probably just a budget restraint as well. But I just thought it was funny that like there's not this big climax of them all getting out on the boat and going out at sea. It's very much like just hovering over the side of a dock. I just think that's very funny as well. That most of the major action set pieces took place in this little like nook and cranny around the corner from like this harbor like port. Like it didn't feel like big and cinematic in the way that Jaws is, and that's kind of what I was expecting. So it was honestly kind of refreshing to see it a little bit more personal, a little more minimal. But I also thought that was another budget thing where I'm like, they definitely probably wanted to get a big boat out there and do the whole Jaws thing, but it's just not viable, especially with the mechanics and the physics of the turkey tossing, if you will. So yeah, which we'll also get to, I'm sure. But I just thought there was another observation of the setting in the city, which was very interesting.
They also gave the shark superpowers so that a boat would probably not save anyone.
Right.
He jumps over things to kill people a lot. So
Right.
or at least once.
He has Christmas magic.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to talk about the mom in this movie. Let's get to the characters a little bit because I'd like to start with mom. who is a bootlicker and I would definitely stand behind my kid for drawing a comic that stands up to the man. And I felt, abandoned her son in that moment, because he didn't do it at school. He didn't spray paint it on a wall. He didn't distribute it to the other students. He put it on the internet and other people saw it. She really bugged me a lot throughout this movie. How did you guys feel about bootlicker mom, who probably
Stacey?
calls the cops on strangers who walk on the sidewalk in front of their house?
She probably does. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what the whole party thing is that they're getting ready for, what this dinner is, but she's very much a Karen. She's very much the lady that's trying to impress all the other moms and wanting to have the right image and the family to have the right image. And they're probably sent out Christmas cards and matching pajamas and, all of that. Not that that's a bad thing, but it is goes along with a particular personality. And she is very much that. Yeah, no, but I mean, she's very annoying. I agree.
Yeah, and she does. She does have that because that dinner thing that they do. I mean, it's obviously a community outreach situation, and that's great. And I'm glad that she does that. But she's just the worst most of the time. She, even at the end, I have here, bootlicker mom ruins everything by snatching the pen because for some reason she suddenly doesn't believe in what her son's saying anymore, even though she saw the freaking shark kill her son and husband. I suddenly, and then she takes it and like, I don't know, like, I don't understand. She just bugs me. She bugs me a lot. Dylan, how did you feel about mom?
I mean, we're only 26 minutes in, but we might as well skip to superlatives. Worst actor by a mile, worst character by a mile. Happiest I've been to see a character die in a movie. Got what she deserved. Hater.
Oh.
That's it. No, I was so glad you brought her up because I was like, you know what? I was waiting to save it to the end, but like, yeah, like just every time she opened her mouth, I was like, oh God. Like, it's one of those characters that is just so infuriating and like not even to serve a narrative purpose of like something a main character has to overcome or whatever, because she is kind of like adjacent to the action at the end, and you're supposed to get those moments of like, I thought I lost you and all these things, and I'm like, oh, shut up, like all these just little things. And then at the end, when she is the one to survive, I'm like, okay, you off the brother and the dad, and then it's like, oh nope, never mind. I hate to cheer for any death in a movie, but I think she joins a very finite list of characters I will happily smile to when I see that happen on screen.
Yeah, let's talk about the characters and the acting. We can sprinkle the superlatives out here, because I would also like to talk about another character who is my worst actor, and it's unfortunate for Dollar Store Dane DeHaan.
Who is already a dollar store everyone else,
Yeah, exactly.
I like Dane DeHaan, but I will admit
I
like
him generic Eddie Furlong myself. So
that also works.
Mhm.
Yeah, because Dane DeHaan is a dollar store Eddie Furlong, and so yeah, it works. But what's his name?
Man.
Reed. Hold on, what his name?
Oh, I have
Reed
it. It's
Miller
Reed
is
Miller.
his name. Yeah, Reed Miller is his name. And here's the problem. He sadly has the distinction of being the straight man, so his bad acting doesn't get covered up isn't masked by the comedy the way almost everyone else's is. Because everyone's bad, almost everyone at least. But most of them get to like be funny while they're being bad at acting, so it like works better and it's easier to ignore. He has the sad distinction of being number one in almost every scene, and number two, having to be the straight man. He doesn't get to hold the comedy, and he has to have like the big powerful moments, which, because he's not great, he doesn't do very well.
Yeah, I just find him infuriating in a similar way. Yeah, Matt said it best. Like, he doesn't have the luxury of getting all the fun quips. He has to be the straight man, but he's also the one who's like kind of Boy Who Cried Wolf doubted for a lot of the movie and has to like
Mhm.
defend himself a lot. And like normally, you know, when a character stands its ground, it's powerful, but it's also, you know, and I'm not blaming puberty or the age of this kid, but his voice is a little whiny. So like when he's, you know, kind of standing up for himself, it just becomes
Yeah.
whiny and complaining. And it's like, no, he is right, but he's like, you know what, I know Santa Jaws. I made Santa Jaws.
Mhm.
And it's just I feel bad because it's just clearly a role that like I don't know. The role doesn't do him a lot of favors. I think.
Mhm.
I think he's obviously better than a lot of other people in the movie, but I think it's tough that like his role has a little less to cover the bad acting. Whereas everyone else who has the bad acting with the bad dialogue, it's like, okay, maybe it's the dialogue problem, whereas he has nothing to hide behind.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I think that's why I'm a little more forgiving of it. But
Mhm.
Stacey, what's your opinion on this performance?
I didn't think I mean, I think it was hard for me to judge a best or worst because, like you guys said, they're all pretty bad. But for me, I thought it's watchable, and if he was horrible, I don't think I could have watched it. Like, I think it would have been kind of intolerable for me to watch the whole movie if I thought he was awful. So he was kind of the one. I mean, who elevated was kind of nobody, but you know, he was one of my possible choices for that just because I could, watch the movie more than once and not want to shoot
Yeah.
myself, so he was okay.
And he kind of acts as an audience surrogate in the way of like, if
Mhm.
another character says something stupid, he's usually the one being like, oh, like, give me a break. Like, you know what? And I think that also helps a little bit because every time a character opens their mouth and says something stupid, I'm always rolling my eyes. So to hear him kind of verbally say it,
Right.
it makes you side a little bit more with this character. But I do agree. I think his just age and his acting talent to put all this on him and then also not give him any of that coverage of the comedy makes it really
Mhm.
tough to really settle into him being the lead of this whole thing, you know?
Yeah, I will say that he was on both lists of worst and best, or
Yeah.
actors who elevated
Very
versus
Nicolas
worst
Cage
actor.
face off thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because he both has to carry this, and I respect that and I appreciate it, and he does a fine job for the movie that he's in. It's just he had the reason he made my worst is what I said, that fact that he has that unfortunate task of not being able to mask the bad acting very well, but with anything else,
Right.
and so
Yeah.
that's why he made that list.
To mention the dialogue doesn't do a lot of these actors any favors, and even the
No,
comedy,
no, no.
it's like, ugh, that dialogue was so bad. Like it's easier to be like, all right, it wasn't the acting, it was the dialogue, but like good actors could probably still elevate this dialogue a little bit more than they do
Mhm.
here. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like if you have really good actors here, it could be a little bit more Zucker-esque in a way of like,
Mhm.
you know what, these dialogue lines are so fucking stupid, but they're so on the nose and dad jokey that like with the right actors, it might work like a Chevy Chase or even like some of those airplane guys like a Leslie Nielsen. But like here, it's like the actors don't add a lot to the dialogue, but a lot of the bad acting, because the dialogue's also bad, isn't as noticeable as we have all said, you know.
Yeah. Stacy, do you have a worst actor, or is it one of the ones we mentioned?
Yeah, I had her name is Haviland Stillwell. She played Georgia, the aforementioned hot girl. Um
Mm,
I, I mean, the character is just written so horribly. Maybe it's not entirely her fault, but you can just constantly see her acting. Like you just every line she delivers, I feel like probably took 50 takes and that was still the best they could get. Like it's just not good. I don't know. I don't like to be mean, but um
uh, we're not here. We're not doing this to be mean, except for
no, I
Dylan
know.
earlier.
Yeah,
And
But
I wasn't. Yeah, you're right. I
he's
was being
not
mean.
good.
I was being mean. Listen,
He's tough.
yeah.
She's the hardest for me to watch. Like if she
mm,
was in more of the movie, I might have a much less fun watching the
Yeah,
movie.
I think that's probably my problem with the mom too. Is that she's such a focal point of that last
Mhm.
act that it is hard. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, in small doses,
um,
if it's bad, it's still bad.
she was the hot girl. She was actually on both lists for me as well. Like she's not good, but I think she like does the best with what she's got. Like she's got like she plays the role well. The role's just annoying.
Yeah, she has
And she's not
horrible
a very
lines.
good actor, but like no one is. So it was hard to really pinpoint if she was doing well or bad. So she didn't make either of my super like finals, but
Mhm.
she was kind of on both lists for me. So I definitely understand that. Do you have an opinion on Georgia? What whatever her name is, Dyl.
I mean, same as what Stacy said. I think she was less of a focal point, which made it a little bit more palatable. And again, like I just knocked over an empty can. Sorry, I chugged my grapefruit seltzer before this. Yeah, no, I echo everything she said. I really do think it's hard to find a good performance here. I think honestly, it was more of a like process of elimination. Okay, who has the least amount of really terrible dialogue and still doesn't stick out too badly without it? And I think that's kind of how I whittled it down at the end of the day. Or like who understood the assignment well. That's another thing that I think adds to the framework of it all, of like the so bad it's good, because I think a lot of these actors think that they're like the next Matthew Perry, the way they're delivering some of these lines, and it's not, you know. And I think the ones who do understand how hokey and jokey it is are the ones that succeed a little bit better, because they're really hamming it up and they're really ridiculous. And I think that's how you have to kind of go for this one. I think the worst actors are the ones that play it so seriously, like they are acting for the Oscar. And that's why we see some of these actors as the worst, and sometimes the best, but also the worst, because, you know, like they are really going for this really dramatic moment when this is not that type of movie. And I think that's what helps our show in that sense. But also, like, you know, every time they open their mouths and they deliver it like it's the next Daniel Day or Meryl Streep, it's like, okay, you are totally unaware of what movie you're in, which I think is great for us, you know, to dissect and make fun of, you know.
Let's segue, because you mentioned the best actors. Let's segue into that, the actors who elevated the material. This one came down to 2 for me, but I'm gonna tell you, I can tell you about the other one if he doesn't come up in a little bit. But the top one for me was my favorite character, and I thought this guy did it well. I wish he was in more of the movie, but he died real early, and that's Richie Montgomery, who played Papa Joe. I loved that guy so much. Every moment he was on screen, he entertained me. He made me happy. Maybe it's best that he was not in it much, because then maybe I would have gotten tired of it, or I would have noticed that he's worse. But I just really wanted more of him in this movie, and he got my actor who elevated material. Dylan.
Yeah, I actually thought you were going a different way, because there is also another character for me that like kind of departs very early that I thought kind of just understood the assignment. Like I had 2 actors. One that was like, I thought very good because they had the least amount of quips and stuff to do, and they gave a totally fine performance. And the other one was the one that was like kind of biting into it and like really chewing up the scenery, and that is Creek Wilson as the evil Santa. And that's kind of the one who I felt like he understood what movie he was in from the get-go. He was really hamming it up, really understanding the assignment of like, this is a piece of shit, and I'm gonna really elevate that. And I appreciate that in any movie. It's either like, I want the people who are so unaware that they're so memorably bad, or the people that are so aware that they fit the project. And I thought he was one who fit the project well. And then the other one I had was the lead, I guess, love interest. I guess it's hard to talk about with kids, but Courtney Lauren Cummings, I thought was very good. I think she is the one who, she plays Jenna. She is the one who I feel like has the least amount of comedy, and therefore, because her performance is solid, it's not like embarrassingly bad. I think she's perfectly serviceable. To whenever they interacted, I was like, oh, this is kind of cute, you know, like especially at the end when they're exchanging the comic books and he like introduces himself to her again. Like, I really like her in that performance. I think she is the one who is doing the best job with the least amount of roadblocks in the dialogue, to where I think she gets away with it the best. And I think especially because everyone is so big and broad around her, I think she, by being a little bit more subdued, makes it work. And you know, I'm a sucker for a good romance, and I do think, you know, children romance is a little harder to get on board with, but I do still think it's a sweet little added tinge to the film that didn't need to be there, but I think doesn't take away from it. So I'm gonna give her the kudos as the best actor. But I do think the Santa Claus guy is the one who, the evil Santa, elevated it for me. So I think both of them for very different reasons. One for playing a very solid performance with very little flair, and one who was understanding the assignment so much that he was so extreme. So I think those are the 2 that I settled on as like a kind of co-winner there for best actor of the material who elevated it.
I consider both of them. I thought, I agree with you on the girl. I think she does great. I think that her role is just very straightforward. So it's, and she's I mean, she's good. She's not hamming it up too much. So I
Yeah.
think she does it really well.
Isn't that a little
Santa,
sad though? That like
er,
you
yeah.
get the best actor prize for being just good. Like you were
Yeah.
good. like and you win. Like it just goes to show how
It's
bad everyone else
fine.
is.
Yeah, but Evil Santa, I agree. He was early on my list, and he was good. I liked him a lot too. So I agree. Stacy, how do you feel
Um,
about those picks, and do you have a pick?
I think the Evil Center is good. I think the three people in the beginning in general kind of were better than a lot of what we got, but maybe that's because it was so brief. Who knows?
Yeah.
They were imaginary, so imagination. My pick, I mean, I did talk about the lead Cody a bit, about him not being horrible, but my pick was actually also Courtney Lauren Cummings for Jenna, because she wasn't going too big, and she was not like, she just never bothered me, and she never like, she didn't stand out, but in a good way she didn't stand out, if that makes sense.
She stood out by not standing out. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah, exactly. She stood out by by being fine.
So that's all I can ask for.
And she was very believable in this love interest role.
Mhm.
And I don't know, and maybe, I mean, I don't know if who this is really a credit to, but it wasn't like some movies. I love Scott Pilgrim, but I don't understand what Ramona sees in Scott at all. In this case, I could see these two getting together.
Yeah.
Like I can see why she's interested in him. And I think she does that very well. So I agree with
I thought she was very natural, I guess, is what I was trying to find.
Absolutely. And I do think she brings a lot out of Reed Miller as
Yes.
well. Like I think she
Yeah.
actually brings genuine moments out of him. Like I
Mhm.
think he's at his worst when he's like, I'm the hero and I'm gonna save the
Yeah.
day and this is the problem we gotta solve it. And he's better when he's just conversing as a
Right.
natural human being, as a kid with a crush. Like I think that's actually some of the best stuff
Mhm.
in the movie. And it's sad that the best stuff in the Santa Jaws movie is the stuff that doesn't involve the shark. But we can probably segue into the shark soon, because I do think that is also part of the reason why it's so bad it's good, because that shark is just like all kinds of wrong in all the best ways.
Yeah, let's talk about the shark. I love just about everything about this shark. I love that its eyes glow like Rudolph's nose. I love that it I don't know, I love all of the Christmassy stuff. That it's a concept that a rational person would have tugged back on a little bit, and would have tempered to make it a bit more palatable, but they didn't do that, or maybe they did, and that's what we got. But if they did, I want to see what they rejected.
Same.
But they didn't do that, and I love that they kind of just went for it, and not only just was this cool idea and design, but like it's like a true early slasher, where like you get like the first 3 Friday the 13th movies in there, where he's like becoming who he becomes throughout this movie, collecting the machete and the face mask and all that. You get all that, like each kill he does, he collects a new thing that becomes part of Santa Jaws, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah. I also love
go
the conceit of like the idea behind it. It feels very like almost like Page Master-esque, where it's like, you draw something and it comes to life. Like it's a very fanciful. That's why I kind of compared it earlier to like a decom or a children's film, because it does have that kind of whimsical. If there's not as much blood and guts and impaling as there is, I think this could be a really cute children's sell if you don't have the killer shark. But just the idea of like drawing something and it comes to life, but it ends up being a monster and you have to kind of control it. Like it feels like a very fantasy children's novel idea, which I think, like, honestly, with better production value and better writing, could actually be a solid idea. It just, the shark just looks so cheap. And I think anyone now who complains that the Jaws shark looks fake and cheap needs to watch this one, because that one looks so much better in comparison. I know that looks fake as well, but like this one is so fake. And that's where it finally broke my immersion, where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm watching this sci-fi original movie. I'm not watching a piece of film cinema, like, I'm not meaning to sound like Scorsese, but I love that I'm not, like, I know that I love that it's not that, because it makes it more entertaining. The other detail I really love is the fact that like they're like, oh, he loves Christmas, let's summon him with Christmas music, and you expect it to be, you know, because you think Jaws, you think that dun 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 dun, and this is just like elevator jazzy music, God rest you merry gentlemen, and I'm like every time it's like da 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 da. I'm like, that's just so funny. It's like this killer monster is summoned by like, you know, saxophone. You know?
That feels like a budget issue that turned out to be for the benefit of the thing.
Right, like royalty free.
I'm sure that's royalty free.
Yeah, you couldn't get Mariah Carey thawing with All I Want for Christmas Is You, which also would have been fun. I think you put any Christmas song in there and it's just so funny. It's like, you know, like Jingle Bells, and he comes, you know, and I like the fact that he chimes and shakes and bells every time he travels because of his hat. But yeah, I love it. Stacey, what are your thoughts on the shark?
Yeah, a lot of my superlatives actually have to do with the shark, so I don't know if I should go into them all now. But I love the shark. I mean, how can you watch the movie and enjoy it and not enjoy the cheesiness of the shark? The fact that the Santa hat never becomes displaced from the fin is amazing to me. The lights that are all wrapped around him, but somehow he uses to his benefit, not getting snagged on stuff, I think is great. Like Matt said, he gets the horn, he keeps adding on. One of my a superlative I added to the list was best weaponized Christmas decorations.
Yes.
And mine were the ornament grenades that they never got to use against the shark, but that he used to make new teeth out of. When he ended up using them to his benefit. It's just so funny. Like the one where he's supposedly dead and he's sinking. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with After Effects, which is like a special effects tool.
Yeah.
But it very much looks like somebody just went into like very entry level After Effects and just like a film school project and just made this shark sing. And
again with a royalty free Ave Maria playing behind.
Ave Maria. So yeah, that's actually my train wreck moment.
That's mine too.
Thinking, because and I can't, every time I see it, I'm just like, I just die. I just die. I can't get over how crazy it is that this is what they put on film and put out into the world.
Yeah, because also you have the buildup of so much shit happening right before it that it's just like, oh my god, now it's dead. It's Ave Maria's playing. Like, it just all happens so fast. It's just so jarring.
And I mean, at least in the rest of the movie, the shark kind of looks like it's moving. When it sinks, it's just so clearly an animation.
Copy drag,
it's just crazy.
It's beautiful. It reminds me of the old like original kaiju movies where they didn't really have the means to do anything but drop a miniature into the water as it sinks. Like when Godzilla is dying, like he's just kind of sinking, and it's just obviously a miniature just sinking because they don't really have the means to do anything else. It's that kind of thing, but it's a more modern and worse version of that. I really love that. Let's talk about some of those extra superlatives. We've mentioned a couple of them already. I want to talk about because one of our superlatives that we've added here is the Christmasified Jaws tropes and references.
Say that when I was talking about the shark, but go ahead because it's probably the same.
I have a lot. I have a list, but I'm going to say my favorite one, and you actually already mentioned it, Dyl. Although I think you were misremembering the reference, or not the reference, the event that happened. It didn't start jingling until it ate the dad who had, or not the dad, the uncle who had jingle bells around his neck.
Right.
So it wasn't his hat. It was the.
Gotcha. I thought it was something on the hat was jingling. Okay, yeah.
He had the jingly bells around his neck when he got eaten. I love that has replaced the Jaws theme. So anytime it's moving through the water, it's the ching 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 rather than dun dun dun. You know, I love that replaced it. I have more to talk about, but what other Disneyfied, Christmasified Jaws tropes did you guys enjoy?
Stacey?
That was at the top of my list. I love every single time you hear those bells, and I think of Jaws and the correlation, and it's just so funny to me every time.
It is.
Very, very good. Yeah, that was definitely on the top of my list. I did like how blatant the mom's death is a reference to Quint as well, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stacey, you also brought up another superlative earlier that Matt also might bring up later, but like what was the one about the weapon, like Christmas
Weaponized
weapon?
Christmas decorations.
Yeah, so
Or
this
really
is
Christmas items.
right. This is also my Jaws reference. It's a kind of crossover. So instead of obviously throwing the barrels at the shark, they're throwing turkeys, which is like
Mhm.
Right.
for Thanksgiving, but like some people eat turkey on Christmas as well. And I just
They
find
do
it
call them Christmas turkeys specifically several times so that we don't
to differentiate.
confuse them.
Yes,
Yeah.
because they're so
Thanksgiving
different than
turkeys.
Thanksgiving turkeys. But I love that because it's also like for some reason they decide this whole movie that is so artless. They decide to have this really interesting POV camera shot of
Right?
this slingshot going off. I'm like,
They give
that was
it-
cool. I was like looking at it, I was like, oh, that's kind of Spielbergian, you know. And then like
The
them
crashes.
launching these turkeys at him, but then also just the fact that like some of them like end up like flopping on the deck and they just look so nasty. It's like, and we kind of made a joke about it in the cold open, the idea that they would have to spend like 4 hours cooking them because they're fully cooked turkeys. Why not just shoot raw turkeys at them? Like, it's a shark. Why do you need to cook the turkeys? And then it doesn't even work anyway for most of them. Like, and it ends up being the humans that draw them in at the end. Like, it's not even, I don't know. The turkeys thing is so ridiculous and stupid, but it is very much a play on the barrels, but it is also a great Christmas weapon accessory. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought it was a very imaginative idea, even though it's so stupid and silly. I was like, you know what, that's funny. You're launching turkeys at the shark, but
It's
also
so
like
funny.
the execution is just so bad. I love it.
Sorry.
Oh.
Somebody else joined our conversation.
Hello, Alexa. Sorry.
The AI
Or
overlords.
Siri, or whoever you are.
I absolutely love that shot that you're referencing. I talk about that too. Like, where did this shot come from? And then I think that's the turkey that doesn't make it. It is the one with
the one that
epic
flops on the
shot.
deck. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and the way it does too, it's like it just kind of rolls off. It like bounces.
like splatters.
So bad.
Yeah, both times I watched it, I wondered what happened. Like, I understand the mechanism that, or that the reason they're doing that for this movie. What happened to cause that one not to launch? I don't like. They don't show us why that one failed. It just for some reason did not launch.
And like, and why like. Why in a movie that very clearly felt rushed in production and like probably only had a week to film, why do you spend the time to get that shot of the first-hand POV? Like, let's rig the camera to the slingshot and make sure we shoot it at a perfect angle, get the turkey in frame. Like, that probably took at least a few hours to get that one shot. I'm like, because I did, you know, when we did Band on the Run, we did 10 days of shooting and one whole half day was dedicated to a POV wheelchair shot. And it takes so long to get just one shot. I'm like, how do they equate time in their budget to this one POV turkey launch?
First shot they did.
Yeah, and then they were probably like, we need to cut down on everything else.
But then they figured out how long it was going to be to get the shots they want, and all of a sudden
you have to put your time into the climax, because the action climax, like that is it. That's where all your main character deaths mostly happen. That's where most of the impalements and chewings and slashings happen. So I get why they wanted to make that the most artistic moment, but it's so silly.
It was so funny.
I love that as well. Okay, so yeah, the Jingle Bells instead of the Jaws theme. The fin above the water, which is definitely a Jaws staple, has the hat on it. I love that. We already talked about that, but just the hat above the water rather than just a fin. I absolutely. I love that it's dry every time.
All the time.
I didn't even notice that. I didn't even think about that. Oh, that's iconic. Oh wow.
And then the turkeys, and he does end up killing it fake killing it by shooting the turkey in the mouth, which is the same as how Jaws ends. They miss an opportunity, and they did a worse version of it later when he burns the comic to kill the shark. But they missed the opportunity of, before he shot, him saying, "Smile, you son of a Grinch." That would have been amazing. And instead he says, "Burn, you son of a fish." That's a Jaws reference. That's not a Christmas reference. You got to combine them. Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are all my big ones. So there's a lot of them. The eggnog in the water like blood.
With the cookies and the ham mixed up in it.
Yeah, the chumming the water with the cookies and the ham, the weapon, the wrapping wrapping garland around a weapon so that now it will hurt the thing. I love that as well. But yeah, so that's the Christmas vibe. Let's talk about the weapons now that we're there. The trope was the weaponized Christmas decorations.
Mhm.
And Stacy, did you already say yours?
I said mine were the ornament grenade things that they never actually used, that the shark ended up using against them, sort of, in a way.
Yeah. That was. I love that moment because they take away the teeth, and then now he's
Right,
got
and
the.
then he just
I
chomps
love
them up
that.
and makes new teeth out of ornaments.
I love that. My favorite weaponized, and this is actually weaponized by both a character and the shark. Actually, two characters and the shark. The candy cane, because
Mhm.
first the girl is sucking on a normal sized candy cane, and then she stabs it in the eye and takes the eye, and suddenly it's a massive candy cane, like huge. And then it's floating in the water, and it's even bigger when it's floating in the water, which is crazy. So I loved that just for the technical stuff in it, because it was just really bad. But also, anytime a character will sharpen a candy cane to use it as a weapon, I love that. I also, but then also he draws a candy cane to impale into the shark's head, which doesn't do anything, which I thought would have been interesting for that to have been the thing that like made the shark crazy. Like I was like, maybe they should have gone back and done that like earlier, but I like the way they did it. And the shink, and then the shark uses the candy cane as a weapon later, which I absolutely love. So that the candy canes are my favorite weaponized Christmas thing.
Nice.
Dylan, your favorite weaponized?
It was the turkeys. I mean, which is not
Oh
like
yes,
a
that's right. That's
Christmas
right.
thing as much as it is a holiday thing, but
It works.
and oh my god, I phlegmy. Sorry. It's a cold time of year. But yeah, Matt said like the fact that they make it so much of a point to emphasize these are Christmas turkeys. Like and the fact that they're fully cooked is just the funniest part to me. Just the fact that they clearly took the time, because it takes a long time to cook a turkey.
Oh, I would like to talk about this is on my list of worst lines of dialogue, although it doesn't fit. It's not my number one, so we don't have to worry about that. But when they are stuffing the turkeys with the gunpowder or whatever it is, and the husband says, "On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me," and then she says, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree, which is not the first day. That's the third day. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, she says that as she's passing out turkeys, which are not any of those
Partridges,
things that she said.
yeah, or doves or hens.
Yeah. And then they've prepped so much to fill these things. They've all got the gloves. They've got their placemats there to do the things. They hand them out, make a big show of handing it out. It takes them 2 seconds for each of them to pour the thing in, and they're done, and they're taking off their gloves and they're moving on. I'm like, what a production for 2 seconds of work here. That's one person could have done that in the amount of time it took them to make the 12 Days of Christmas reference.
I can't remember. Were the turkeys cooked before they put the gunpowder in?
Yeah, I think so. I think they were cooked for that community dinner thing.
Yeah, I was about to say,
don't touch my turkeys. Like,
right. I was about to say, if they stuffed them and then baked them, those turkeys would have exploded in the oven. So I'm glad they at least thought it through to put the gunpowder in after they cooked it.
I mean, unless they seal them up somehow, that gunpowder is real wet. Makes no sense.
No, it's physically impossible.
I have that line as well because it annoyed the crap out of me. The fact that I was like, okay, if they want to say 3 French hens because there's 3 turkeys, fine, but stop there. Like, and then after all that, she says cooked and stuffed. Like, and it's just so bad.
Oh yes, it's very bad. Yeah, and here's the thing, that line might have worked a lot better if number one, she had prepared hens for like chicken. If she had prepared chicken for this feast,
or a turtle dove.
And he had said on the 3rd day of Christmas, my true gave to me, and then she said 3 French hens and handed them out. That would have, I mean, it still would have been good, but it would have made more sense. Like it would have been better.
100%.
Yeah. yeah, so that part of the turkeys, it was just awful. The whole turkey thing was awful. Like that was awesome. It was awesome and awful in all those best ways. What was did we add another superlative? Oh, favorite kill.
Kill, yeah.
Favorite kill. My favorite kill is tied into my favorite weaponized Christmas item, which is my favorite kill is the brother getting impaled by the horn. Yeah.
Because it also happened so suddenly, and like I should have expected it. Very Deep Blue Sea-ish. Like, you know, he's running down there, like, no, don't sacrifice yourself. He's like, it's okay. And he throws the turkey, and you're like, oh, he's great. And then boom, like it comes out of nowhere, which I actually thought was very effective. Like it did make me jump a little. Yeah.
By the time the mom goes down there, 2 other people have died standing on that thing.
Right.
Don't go down there.
Like, which again goes back to what I was saying. It's so silly that like it's all taking place on this dock because it's very easy. You could very clearly not die if you just stand higher up. Right? It's not like you're on a boat where if it pokes a hole in the boat starts sinking, you're fucked. Like no, like you have a very clear distance between it. That's why I thought it was so funny that they just set it all in that one area.
Yeah.
What about you, Stacey? Any kills?
So yeah, I do like the kill that Matt mentioned. I'm obsessed with the lasso kill because I just he uses the lights as a lasso to pull my least favorite character off, and I guess eats her. Like we don't see that part, but she never comes back. And I just think it's hysterical that the shark somehow uses the lights wrapped around its body as a lasso. And I will always think it's hysterical. But I do have to talk about one other kill, just because of its ridiculousness as well. The random elf dude that's eating his lunch on the dock, and the boat gets pushed into his leg, so he loses the bottom half of his legs. And then the guy is obviously on his knees coming down the dock asking for help and falls in the water. It's just so funny how obvious
Lieutenant Dan. Yeah.
I have that moment written down because and it's funny because those things you said are very funny, but the reason I had to note this part is because the fact that elf sits on the edge of the dock and puts his shoed feet into the water drives me insane. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. I want him to stop doing that. It's definitely my neurodivergence that makes me so upset with that. But stop it. Yeah. Stop it. Don't put your shoed feet in the water, especially your costumed shoed feet.
He learned his lesson.
Speaking of the first day of Christmas, let's talk about the worst lines of dialogue. We can talk about our superlative or the ones that we chose as our worst as well. Well, we talk about just a lot of bad ones because I've got a list. I'm sure Stacy has a list.
Yeah, I only have 2, so maybe I should start because I didn't make a list only because I was like trying to hyperfixate on 1 or 2 things. One little side one that I really liked, which is kind of a Jaws reference, but it's not like a Christmasified Jaws reference. It's just a Jaws reference. Is when the little Asian kid responds to the protagonist. I don't know character names, and he says, "Sure, Mr. Dreyfus." I thought that was just very, very funny and silly and kind of cute, but also like cringe. And then another line that I just thought again Christmassy, but not Jaws related. So I kept it in its own column, but not a creature was stirring except for me looking like an idiot. Like I thought that was a very dumb, stupid line. So that's what I picked out. Everything else is kind of been said in terms of the actual like references to other things and all. But those are the 2 lines that like I just was like writing that one down. But you guys go ahead because I'm sure you guys have a list of so many more because the dialogue really is so much of what makes it awful.
Yeah. I'm just gonna tell you my worst. The one I've decided is my worst. And then I've got others, but I'll let Stacy go through hers, and anything she doesn't cover, I'll cover. But my worst, no, just the worst line is when the brother is about to throw the lance, and the Asian kid says, "Dasher and Lancer." It's just bad.
I feel bad.
It's supposed to be a reference to the reindeer, but that's not how anybody talks.
And you
it's
got to
weird,
follow
and it
through the
sucks.
joke. Dancer and Prancer and Lancer and Vixen, you know, like that's the joke. You know, you don't just say
Yeah.
Dasher and Lancer. Like it's just
Yeah.
so. I feel like he got stuck with most of the terrible lines. Like I feel bad for him. Like he got stuck with a
He
lot
did.
of the like wordplay dad jokes, and I feel he was given a disservice by the script. Stacy.
So I have a list of a few of the just like expected kind of like tropey lines, like Santa Jaws is coming to town, bells on Shark Tale's ring, we just saw an elf turned into Christmas dinner, those kinds of things. There is one interaction when Cody is saying that it's his fault, and his dad says, "No, it's not your fault. Hey, this is classic global warming." Oh my God, I can't even say it. It's classic global warming, non-indigenous species roaming into unfamiliar territories. It happens all the time, which I just find hysterical in the context of the movie of Santa Jaws and the conversations going on around him that he's blaming global warming. And one that is not necessarily a bad line, but always takes me right out of place, because at one point the dad says it's dangerous. It's a dangerous business walking out your door. And I'm like, okay, Bilbo Baggins, like where the hell, why is this? In the way he says it, the delivery, it's like, you know what's happening. Like, you know what this is. Why is it here?
I have this one written down as well. Stacy and I are massive Lord of the Rings people. So I knew that we were both probably going to have this one written down. The problem is, number one, he's saying it as a reference. Like he's definitely relating to the comic book guy. Because she's like, what is it, medieval times? And he's like, well, it's dangerous business walking out your door. That's also not the line. It's dangerous business walking out your front door. And it's also just delivered. It's delivered so bad. And I appreciate the reference. I love that they did that. I wish they'd either gone a little bit further with it or not done it, like made it a little bit more clear that he was identifying with that guy. Like maybe throw in some other ones where dad's a secret nerd, but mom is a shrew, so he's not allowed to be a nerd. Like that would have been cool. But and also sexist, but it's directed by a woman, so we're fine. That's
that makes
answer.
It okay.
That makes sexism okay. No, something would have could have made that work if it had been more of a running thing and maybe a little bit of character development, but it's an attempt at character development without really the work being put into it.
And
so
his
yeah, I'm with that as well.
Like if you don't immediately hear the reference in your head like we did, you would not get that he's making a reference at all. Like there's nothing in the tonality of how he's talking. There's nothing that says, hey, this is a reference to something well known. So it's just so funny to me.
Yeah, it is great, and it is terrible, and I love it and I hate it. So some of the other lines that I have, and some of them are, because here's the thing about the writing of this movie. A lot of it is really bad dialogue. Some of it, it's not even that the dialogue is bad. It's that you can see the seams in their writing. You can see where they had to go back to include something just so something else would make sense in their writing later. They're like, we need them to have bikes, so we're gonna have to throw in a reference to a bikes, because she said we're gonna run, and then when they get there, he was like, well, we did have bikes, and now they have bikes, and so later they can have bikes.
Right.
Stuff like just seems like that. Just the seams throughout the movie, you can see them being laid down. One of them is I know, a shortcut, because they had to explain how they caught up to the guy so quickly. My question is, they don't know where this guy's going. Shortcut to where? Like, I know a shortcut, and then it immediately cuts to them right behind him. Like, and she goes, there he is. They didn't know where he was. What was the shortcut meant to do? It's seams. They're seams. But this one I thought would. This is honestly the one I thought was going to be Dylan's maybe not. Maybe I thought maybe you didn't pick up on it, or maybe you like it, and I'm crazy because you're more of a baseball guy than I am. All I know is what matters most is what happens at the bottom of the ninth when the score is tied and the bases are loaded. That very, very common happens every game. That's the only thing that matters is what happens. What happens at the bottom of the ninth when the score is tied and the bases are loaded, and that's now.
Yeah. Very intense.
We talked about the friend getting most of the bad lines, and that's probably because he was probably meant to be the comic relief of the group. So he gets a lot of the bad puns. He did say Gill-ty is charged.
Yeah, I got that
which
too.
Is very bad.
Should we get into our train wreck moments? Our train wreck moments, Stacey and I kind of both talked about. It's the Ave Maria shark sinking. Matt, did you have a moment that wasn't that?
Yeah, it's actually a scene that I really like. But because you guys talked about how much you liked it as well, the opening scene as a scene I liked, but it's just so full of bad things, like like the worst angle to film a punch at. They film that punch, he completely misses, but that's because you're from the side. You're looking at them straight on from the side. He's not going to punch him if you're looking at it like that.
Yeah.
You need to do it from a different angle. They chose the absolute worst angle. The dialogue in there is bad but awesome. It really set the tone for what I wanted from this movie, which is why that is my train wreck moment.
Absolutely. Stacey, any other moments that you wanted to bring up? Just like big bad. I mean, I think that whole ending, the turkey's going into the sinking, and then suddenly he's back up and kills the mother. Like all that, like that last like 20 minutes is just so gold. Like I think if you were to pitch this to a crowd of like, hey, you want to see this movie? This is the 5 or 10 minutes you show them, or you show them the very beginning, as Matt was saying.
No, we've pretty much covered all of them, I think, in one way or another. The ones that I would bring up.
Cool.
I do have 3 things left to talk about. 2 of them are scenes. One of them is something I want. Number 1, Cody is lucky that the wish that he made for his family to come back understood that he also meant the people who weren't his family, because everybody came back.
Right.
He did only wish for his family back.
It's a found family, man.
Yeah, maybe, but it included the bikini lady.
And the girl next door that he hadn't actually met yet.
Yeah.
True.
Second thing I want to mention and is that Cody offers to get the cinnamon rolls out of the oven for Papa, and then promptly leaves the house without removing the cinnamon rolls. He's ruined everyone's breakfast to go give a comic book to a girl. He was like, they were like, hey, we're gonna get the things out. He's like, oh, don't worry, I'll do it. And then he's like, I have to go, and then just leaves, but doesn't tell anybody he's leaving. They're like, where are those cinnamon rolls? And suddenly they start smelling the burn, I assume. But and the third thing that I want to mention is it's a thing that I want, and there's a specific line in this movie where the dad talks about Mike, his brother, about how they couldn't find him. He's like, well, he's always pulling pranks. He says that remember that time he tried to convince us all that there was a serial killer on the loose? Here's the premise here. I want a prequel where we learn about Mike convincing everyone that there's a serial killer, because here's what I think. What if Cody wasn't the first recipient of that pin from Papa? What if it was Mike? What if Mike got it, somehow made a serial killer come around, and it's the same situation where nobody believes him, but there's a serial killer around, and he's got to figure that out. And then that can be Christmas themed too, and we can have the same situation, but with it can be I don't know. We come up with something for a title to make it in a similar vein. But I want that one. And then for some reason, Papa Joe didn't learn his lesson and gave it to another child.
With no explanations. I so badly want to know more about this pen. I can't lie. Like,
that's what I'm saying. I want a prequel.
Was there a sequel? Was there a
No,
sequel to this?
I don't.
I
Not that I
think
know
this
of.
this caters to one. I think because the ending does leave it very open ended, where he keeps the pen. You know, like I think that could be prequel or sequel. Like give us more. I'd be down for it. No more
There is
Sharknado.
one other thing I wanted to mention. What is a cranky D that that Pop got for Christmas? Because the
I
other
lost
one
my other one. Yeah,
broken or
I
whatever.
broke my
Yeah.
own one.
Like
I have
don't
to
look
say, both times I noticed that, and both times it intrigued me so much. I'm like, and there's part of me that goes, what a badass move not telling us. Like they made a reference, but they didn't feel the need to explain it to us.
right.
They're just like, it makes that world feel a little more lived in. It's also frustrating because it's like, what is that? I don't understand. But it's probably something batshit crazy because Papa Joe
Googled it
had
and
it.
came up with nothing.
Nothing online. Yeah, nothing. I'm looking for it. It does not exist.
Crank.
Yeah, cranky D's. It's funny because crank and D are also two words you could use to describe something else. So I don't know if it has to do with that as well. I don't know. Maybe cranky D or a crank and a D. One of the same. There you go. Yeah. Anything else on Santa Jaws, guys? I think we've covered a lot of it. Any other notes we had on it, Matt, Stacy?
I'm just glad you
No,
guys
I think
enjoyed
I've
it.
covered all of my notes.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed it. I'm glad whenever Stacy brings a movie to our attention, I always know it's going to be memorable at the very least. Because The Raven and Thanksgiving weren't truly frame wreck movies. You know, they were schlocky in ways, but they weren't true fully frame wreck movies. And I think this one finally hit that. I think this is finally the one where we're like, this is a full frame wreck movie. So I'm glad we finally got a real proper one that we could talk about with Stacy because it's great in all the worst ways. So. And Matt, do you stand by? Is this a framework movie or is this a just bad movie or intentionally, consciously bad?
I think it's a frame wreck movie. I think that it tries to be bad and then is bad in ways it's not intending to be. So I do think that it does its job.
Bad at
There you
being
go.
bad.
Yeah.
It's
So
bad at being bad.
let's score it then. I can start. I'm going 4.5 turkey catapults out of 5. Christmas turkey catapults out of 5. 4.5. Matt?
I'm not going to change mine, but I did score it 3 Christmas turkeys and a catapult out of 5. Which is about 3.5, 3.5, I think.
Yeah, nice.
But that is what I scored mine.
Cool. Stacy?
And I scored it 4 turkey bombs out of 5.
There we go. Those
So we're all
turkeys
in
leaving
agreement that it's
Yeah.
turkeys.
And 3.5, 4, and 4.5 going to average out to a 4 out of 5. So we do agree it is very so bad it's good coded. Which brings us to our final question, Matt. Does it belong on the Mount Trashmore? I actually have a graphic this time. Matt, what do you think?
So it does belong in our show, but not on Mount Trashmore, I don't think. I think that it doesn't reach the heights of what we have there.
Yeah, now Stacey, I know you haven't seen all these, the Room, Troll 2, Plane 9 from Outer Space, and Ben and Arthur, but do you think Santa Jaws warrants at least conversation of being one of the 4 best so bad it's good movies of all time?
I think that it is not well known enough to be put in those ranks. I do think reputation plays a part in that, and those are all, very well known, so bad it's good for the most part, and Santa Jaws just isn't up there. Do I think that it can be as entertaining and as bad as most? Yes, but yeah.
I don't think we're putting the shark up there, but I just wanted to get the opinions. Yeah, I would also agree no, but I do think like it's closer than Sharknado was, so I would definitely say that. Cool, Matt. Anything else on Santa Jaws before we
No.
continue to next month? No. So Stacey, anything else you have to say on Santa Jaws?
Nope.
Cool. So that is our wrap for Santa Jaws. Of course, Stacey, such a pleasure having you on as always. We will do our final plugs and goodbyes in just a sec. But Matt, you do have to tease next month because we keep trucking along here on FRAMEWRECK. So tell us what we're doing in January.
Well, I can tell you what we're doing in January and for February and March. Well, sort of. We're the first 3 months. We're doing a series. We're doing it's a new year, nostalgia. We're going to do 3 episodes of Nostalgia Junction in a row. First up, it's going to be a Matt episode. It's going to be Nostalgia Junction Extreme Teen Edition. And we're going to talk about movies that were important to me as a teenager. Now, that's a lot of movies, and I realized that I needed to narrow it down, so I narrowed it down to just teen movies that were important to me as teenagers. Teen movies that came out when I was a teenager that were important to me, that were teen movies, which also was just a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pick the first two, and then I sent a list to Stacy. It's in our Discord chat. I sent a list to Stacy. It's actually smaller list than even I had before. But I'm gonna have her pick two out of that. One of them is actually one that I'm picking, because the first one I'm picking for this is Romeo and Juliet, William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet from 1996. Which is one that means a whole lot to me. Has one of my favorite performances of all time, and it just Baz Luhrmann movie. I really love this movie. I know Dylan is not the biggest fan of it, so I wanted him to give another shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And
because
I'm gonna go on open-minded.
I think there's a lot there that to appreciate.
Cool.
Even if you're even if you're comparing it to the Zapparelli, you shouldn't. Number one. Number two, I think there's still a lot there to appreciate.
Cool.
The second one is going to be a movie called Disturbing Behavior, which is from, I think, 1998. Which is, we'll talk about it later, but one of my children is named their name because I first fell in love with the name while watching Disturbing Behavior.
Nice.
But also, I watched a lot and I really, really loved it. And so we're doing those two. They're both kind of heavy, but I'm going to let Stacy pick the third one from that list. Stacy, can you have you determined which teen movie?
You said those ones are kind of heavy. I now don't want to. The one I want to pick is also kind of heavy.
Do it.
Because
was it White Squall?
Yes.
Yes,
White Squall. I was obsessed with White Squall back in the 90s, 100%. But I do think it's fun that there's two Seth Green movies on this list as well. So. But White Squall would be my pick.
All right.
Okay. We're gonna do White Squall. It's gonna be a little heavy, but they are all extreme teen movies because they're extreme.
Cool.
So William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, Disturbing Behavior, and White Squall are going to be the movies that you're going to need to watch to enjoy. I about called it Cinema Soapbox. I don't know why. Nostalgia Junction.
Yeah.
My other show on Maddie Loves Movies.
And then February will be my month of movies that are nostalgic for me for some theme.
Yours is going to be March.
Never mind. Mine will be March. And then February will be a guest Nostalgia Junction that we will tease at a different time. Sorry about that. That's why I leave Matt to the programming, because I fuck it up every time. But there we go. Matt's nostalgic movies, his teenage movies during his teenage times will be Extreme Teen Edition next month, Nostalgia Junction. Not necessarily all FRAMEWRECK movies, but just films of his nostalgia that we will reanalyze and see if they hold up or not, or if they were purely products of nostalgia. But that is it for us there. Stacy, anything else? It was such a joy to have you on 2 months in a row now, 3 episodes in a row if you count Matt's channel as well, just to get you on here and just talk about so many amazing topics of conversation. Just getting to experience movies that you love that you've been waiting for us to check out has been a lot of fun. And the happiest of holidays to you. Any last thoughts? Anything to impart upon our viewers before you go?
Nope. I have a couple more movies in mind that I think are more FRAMEWRECK movies than my previous ones. One is also a holiday movie, so maybe next Christmas, maybe I can come back. But nope. Happy holidays to you guys. Check out on Maddie Loves Movies, Camp Film Camp, or is it film? It's Camp Film.
You got it.
Yeah, check that out. I'm on there as well, and you should just check out everything over there because it's great, and Matt is great. And I'll be back on a couple of things next month on some of these channels again.
Absolutely. Matt, do you have anything else to plug? I mean, Stacy plugged you for you, but
but
anything else?
Yeah, you can find me over on YouTube at Maddie Loves Movies. We, as I mentioned earlier, these two were on our holiday special. It was really a lot of fun talking about some campy holiday movies on Camp Film Camp. We also do a show called Cinema Soapbox, which I accidentally almost said earlier and then did say out loud, which is a show where it's like a TED Talk style presentations about movies, about theories, about whatever. Dylan is a panelist on there, and you will see him, one that he actually presented coming up the beginning or sometime in January, I believe. And then Stacy will be on a future episode of that as well, but we're gonna not tease what that is or when it's coming out because number one, I don't know. But also just because I'm really excited to have her on, and she's also going to be my guest on Camp Film Camp in March, which I will tease later about what those movies are as well. But yeah, so I'm having a lot of fun over there. You can see my handle down there at the bottom, MattmanXIII, pretty much anywhere on the internet. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And you can check me out here at the Dyl Pickle Movie Network. Stacy's on here a bunch in other facets as well. She'll be heavily involved a little bit earlier on the year with a big Marvel trivia event we're having soon, which Matt and I will not be on the same side of. We'll be duking it out, but that's what's going to be fun about it. But that's all in that series. You know, we're best buds in real life, the best of friends, these three, and all our friends of the channel, our co-hosts Chad and Kelsey and Zach, and friends of the channel JD and Corey and Carly and everyone who is a part of this show and all these shows that has guested on or been a part of it this year. It's been great. There's an episode of Picture This coming out tomorrow. This is Christmas Eve. That'll come out on Christmas Eve, and then by the end of the year we will finally, I've been teasing it for about a year, I have compiled all our cold opens in one video I'm going to release as like a little New Year's treat for you all. And then we have 2 more drafts to round out the year as well, 2 Disney Channel themed drafts. So it's going to still be a busy end of the year as we head into January, which will be a bit of a cool down, and then we're getting into full Oscar season. Matt and I are both going to attempt the death race again this year. So you can follow our Letterboxd to keep track of what we've been watching for the Oscars. If you want to join in the death race, join our Discord, and we will post a checklist. I'm going to work on something that you guys can keep track of your death races for on there. Otherwise, for FRAMEWRECK, we'll see you in the new year for new year, new nostalgia or nostalgia. I messed that up, but it's okay. It's been a long year. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time with Teen Extreme, right? Extreme Teen. I screwed up again.
Extreme Teen Edition.
God, that's why I let Matt co-host this, because I suck. All right, bye, guys.
What a story, Mark.